Intuition is a very highly valued entity in the Edit Suite, and I keep it on its pedestal. It is the most valuable thing that you can possess, is intuition in many creative processes, particularly editing. The concern is that people will sometimes cut off a conversation by saying it's intuitive, because they fear that by articulating something about their intuition, they will mess it up. Okay, fair enough. Those are different brain functions. Acting on your intuition and analyzing your intuition are two different neurological processes, and you do want to keep them separate. However, you can understand what intuition is, I propose, and you can enhance, support, and strengthen your intuition by understanding what your intuition is. So I propose that an editor's intuition about rhythm comes from two sources. One is the rhythm of the world in which they live, and the other is the rhythm of the body that they are alive within. So the editor's body and the world around them, those are two sources of knowledge about rhythm. The editor accrues this knowledge by an unspoken process. They don't sit down and learn balls roll downhill, for example, or, people tense up when they're angry. You don't learn that by articulating it. You learn it by sensitizing yourself to it, tuning to it. And so it doesn't need to be articulated, but you do need to understand where you get it and to sensitize and tune to enhance it. I would have a great deal of difficulty in myself separating the cognitive and the emotional, or the thinking and the feeling. And people have accused me of being intellectual, and to that I answer, yes, but it's intuitive. I don't know any other way to be. I'm not putting it on for you here, folks. This is just what comes out. So the separation between thinking and feeling is not one that sits very comfortably for me, particularly when you talk about editing. I think that editing is a very analytical process, but I think that the analysis goes on through an intuitive and felt process, and goes on. If you were to make an analogy with research, you would say it's action research, because you try, you perceive, you try, you perceive, and you keep making adjustments in that way. It's not unusual for an editor and a director to make a plan to say, right, therefore we will cut A, B, C, and D in that order. You go in, you have your thoughts, you have your plan, it's all very much at the cognitive level, and then you go, oh, it doesn't quite work. What if C comes before B and we just shave a bit off and drop D altogether and jump to E? That feels better. So it's very much it's an experiential kind of analysis, if it's analysis at all.
Kinesthetic empathy. Some thoughts on that in regard to the editing phenomenon.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Kinesthetic empathy it's a two-part expression. The first part, kinesthetic, is movement feeling. So kine is the Greek root word both of cinema and of kinesthetics. So cinema, kine, movement, kinesthetic, movement, aesthetic, feeling. So that's kinesthetic. Empathy is feeling with, as opposed to sympathy, which is feeling for. Empathy is feeling with. So when you put them together, you get feeling with movement, kinesthetic empathy. Kinesthetic empathy is incredibly important for an editor to develop and to acknowledge and to recognize, because that's how they understand the movement in the rushes, in the uncut material, and it's how the audience understands what is cut together. They empathize with it kinesthetically. They feel with movement, which of course is a process that we now understand to be facilitated by the mirror neurons. We can feel with movement because the mirror neurons are active. So we have this kinesthetic empathy, and it is how we understand what people mean with movement. And very often in drama in particular, but also in documentary, it is through movement that you understand subtext. So somebody might say, I'll have coffee. Or they might say, I'll have coffee. And what you understand the difference to be is entirely on movement. It's not on text. And all of the subtext essentially relies on movement. And that includes movement of voice, of course. But physical movement that you can see is a very important part of how we understand story and emotion. And it relies on kinesthetic empathy to do its work.